Hello everybody, welcome to Toyah at Home. We feel there's so much to celebrate this week. I mean, America, wow. The vaccine, wow. It's just been an incredible week and we feel our hearts have lightened, haven't they?
Yeah. Optimism in the world, creativity is moving in the world.
And we also feel like naughty school children because on Sunday night we received a text, whole lot of laughs, marvellous. Robert Plant. I felt so embarrassed when that came through. How did you feel?
Well, probably like you, little lovey, a naughty school child.
Robert Plant only lives 16 miles from us, and we have mutual friends who showed him the film of A Whole Lot of Love, which was last Sunday's film. And I said to Robert, oh no, Robert Plant's going to look at it.
I was terrified in there. I was playing it and I was terrified. And there was something about actually, it's an old bank vault from 1929. And being in that space, because each space has its own particular characteristic. And being in a bank vault was not like an opening experience to joy and life in the world. It was as soon as I began, I was terrified.
The thing is, I'm always scared about the doors shutting. We've got two enormous bank vaults, which we live with, and the doors closing is always a problem. I always say to Robert, don't touch the door, don't touch the door. Put something in, block the door, just block the door. So I think it's a beautiful room and it's a really nice room to have. We know we've got it if ever we have to lock anything away. But talking of security, we want to mention to you that since the success of Toyah at Home, Toyah and Robert's Agony Aunts, Toyah and Robert's Sunday Lunch, scammers are starting to take interest in my name. So unless you are on,
Toyah official.
it has a blue tick. That is all you need to look for. The blue tick means that it's legally official, and if anything comes up on there, you can trust it. But if anyone is offering you a competition where you can win money or you can win prizes, it's highly unlikely it's true to me, because if we were ever going to do that, we would advertise it at least a month ahead. So please, please be aware of the scammers. Now, we have a wonderful first question for you, which really, I think, involves Robert.
Well, this is from Ignacio. Is it pronounced Loire?
You are asking me?
Well, this is the point. As I've mentioned before on Agony Aunts, my wife is profoundly dyslexic and I come from Dorset. Now, what that means
Both very similar.
well, my wife means she can't really read it very easily, and what it means for me is I can read it, but I can't pronounce. Please, my Polish and Russian friends have forgiven me hamming up their words, pronouncing their names, but my Italian, Spanish, and French friends are the same. And
Just answer the question, my darling husband.
Ignacio, all right, Ignacio's. I've got that right, haven't I? Good. So, hi, Toyah, he says Mr. Loire. Could you tell us more about your habit of scaring Robert?
This is Robert's office, and every time he goes out to go to the loo, I go under that desk where all the books are, and I just wait for him to come back. He sits down, he's reading, he's playing music, drinking his coffee, and then I crawl over the floor to under this desk, and then after about 5 minutes, I touch his feet.
My wife has also, on one occasion, actually hid under the desk here on this side. So as I walked in to sat down, I found a wife waiting to make me jump.
But by far my favourite is we have a downstairs shower room that's completely dark. It has no natural light. And I will stand in there for hours just waiting for Robert to come in. And he will come in, he'll turn the light on, he's talking to himself, he's mumbling, moving around the shower room. And then suddenly, literally after about 4 minutes, he sees me in the corner. That's my favourite.
My wife has actually made me jump on Toyah at home in that very shower room.
Yes. So he does get me back. There is revenge. So thank you very much. It's gorgeous to sit on your knee for so long. We are going to open at Trading Boundaries, our first number, with the wonderful acoustic set with the glorious Colin Hines, Chris Wong and Mike Nichols. And this is These Boots Are Made for Walking. You keep saying you've got something for me, something you call love, but confess you've been a messy where you shouldn't have been a messy. Now someone else is getting all your best. Oh yeah. Boots are made for walking, and that's just what they'll do. One of these days, these boots are gonna walk all over you. You keep lying when you ought to be truthing. Oh, I heard you. And you keep losing when you ought to not bet. And you keep sinning when you ought to be a changing. What's right is right, but you ain't been right yet. Oh no, these boots are made for walking, and that's just what they'll do. One of these days, these boots are gonna walk all over you. Are you ready, boots? Get walking. Are gonna walk all over you. You keep laying where you shouldn't have been playing. Oh, I saw you. And you keep thinking that you'll never get burned. Well, I've just found me a brand new box of matches. Oh no, these boots are made for walking, and that's just what they'll do. One of these days, these boots are gonna walk all over you. That was These Boots Are Made for Walking at the brilliant Trading Boundaries. What a lovely song. I love singing that to you, threatening you with my heels. So anyway, Stephen Tooth, I'll see you later, Robert.
Bye, sweetie.
I love my husband so much. Stephen Tooth asked, do you want the door shut?
It's fine, sweetie.
Okay. You say that Blue Meaning is your favourite album. So I'm just going to go to my album collection library and just dig it out. I shouldn't really need to dig it out. We've been filming and recording and getting ready for the re-release of this album for the last 6 weeks. And I've even performed the song live with Chris Wong. And my goodness, it's absolutely fabulous. It's brilliant. So here I am in my green screen room, and here I am at my library of albums. So let's have a look at this. Blue Meaning. Oh gosh, don't tell me I haven't got it. I should have it. I've been working with it for ages. So let's see. This is what the ghosts in this house do to me. Blue Meaning, where are you? Got it. Okay, here we go. Blue Meaning. Fabulous. So the song itself, Mr. Tooth, is a reflection of my upbringing in Birmingham. I grew up in King's Heath in Birmingham, and it was very, very industrial. Now, my family background is my paternal grandfather walked from Lincoln at the age of about 16 with a wheelbarrow full of tools. He walked from Lincoln to Birmingham to settle and to become a master builder and a constructor. And he joined with the Lang family, very famous construction family. At this point, Wilcox had one L. He added the second L to stop confusion. He split away from the Lang family to go independent long before I was born. But Wilcox Lang was my grandfather and the very famous Lang family. So you ask, I must stop saying so. This is my exercise for this broadcast. Wilcox, stop saying so. Anyway, I grew up in Birmingham, and of course, J.R.R. Tolkien was raised as a young boy with his brother in the Catholic seminary on Hadley Road. I went to school less than 500 yards from that Catholic church. And behind that Catholic church is two water towers, which are believed to be the inspiration for the Towers of Mordor. So everything about Birmingham and its landscape, right through to the Black Country, has inspired who and what I am as a writer. It's also inspired Black Sabbath. It's also inspired Led Zeppelin. So you ask, what is the meaning behind Blue Meaning? It is literally about the beginning of the Industrial Revolution. It's also possibly about a dystopian future when man has no longer got importance as individuals, but is more important as groups of people without autonomy. So it's about that bleakness. It's about being bred for a reason. So churning children in and out of factories purely for economic reasons. It's a pretty bleak song, but I think it's also a very beautiful piece of poetry. So I hope that answers your question. Lee Stephen Jones, thank you so much for your question. You ask about the quote on the back of Blue Meaning, beware the eyes of May. Well, it comes from, and it's a little bit of an in-joke, it's from Julius Caesar by Shakespeare, beware the Ides of March. Now you can look that up. In March, Julius Caesar was believed to have been assassinated, and that changed the whole of the course of the Roman Empire. So beware the Ides of March. It's like one of the witches' predictions, except that's from another play, but also it's about this time, this month has notoriety for bad things happening that bring change. So beware the eyes of May, which is down there in the corner, is literally me being slightly pretentious because my birthday is May the 18th and I'm saying beware the eyes of May. Otherwise, kind of get me that birthday card, get me that birthday present, that kind of thing. So it's just a play on Shakespeare at a time when I was probably working with Derek Jarman on The Tempest. And that enlightened me so much to how brilliant Shakespeare was, because Jarman's insights into the words of Shakespeare, because he truly believed Shakespeare was a hidden language. He was allowing the commoners to learn facts about the Illuminati and the guilds of workmen, because back then the whole of the country was very much run on kind of guilds. You had the shoemakers guilds, you had the farmers guilds. They were all very powerful, and Shakespeare was believed to be feeding information and facts to people via his plays. So Beware the Eyes of May is a play on all of that in a way. So Keogh, I just got to grab your first name, Stuart Keogh. You say, and this is such a brilliant question, that your favourite album is Prostitute, and it feels like an improvised album. Oh boy, Stuart Keogh, if only you knew, this album it just was a map. It was a bar by bar map. Only myself and Steve Seidelneck are on it. Steve Seidelneck was playing percussion, drums, and doing a lot of programming as well. And I was looking for a completely original album that was very much pieced together bar by bar, not totally different today when you come across young people who just use programs and they cut and paste. But back then we had to do it all for real. Everything was played live. So I would end a day in the studio saying to Steve Seidelneck, I would like 16 bar intro on this beat, 32 bars on this beat, and then we're going to go into another 16 bars of this beat, and then I want 8 bars of that beat, and we're going to go out on 38 bars of another beat. And he would then program that kind of overnight. He was a night worker. And I would come in the next morning with the lyric and we put everything down to tape. This was made on tape. So it's a very, very structured album, but it's not written the way a songwriter would normally write, because it is basically just rhythm, program sounds, sound effects, my voice, and lots of vocal layering. And it's a kind of poetry to beat, as it were. I think it's pretty groundbreaking, but it certainly was not an improvisation. It took the two of us, I think we had 2 to 3 weeks on it, and we worked so heads down. I mean, our heads were literally down on the mixing desk, deciding how we were going to piece things together, what sounds we were going to use. And it was a wonderful, wonderful partnership. I really enjoyed making it. And it allowed me, and it also freed me to get away from the very formulaic way of making albums that I had up until that point. The pinnacle of that being Desire, where I was under great pressure from A&R people to write and record in a certain way and to be a certain type of commercial artist. This was my freedom. I was given 10k, an advance of 10k. We locked ourselves away in a studio in Dorset and we didn't leave till we'd made it. And I think it's groundbreaking. If you haven't heard it, it's certainly worth listening to. For me, very inspired by the German artist Anne Clark, who I adore. Look up Anne Clark. She always worked with orchestras. She's a poet. She would just go on stage and tell her poetry to the audience with an orchestra behind her. And I felt that was so civilized. I absolutely envied her being able to do that. It's a really, really wonderful artist, and I'm not sure she's ever come to the UK to perform, but I would certainly venture into that territory again. And in a way, Prostitute, very much inspired by her, but also she led me very much to how the Humans worked as well. And that was just the whole combination of the art of words and music. So thank you very much for that question. I'm going to head upstairs to answer the next question, because there's something I want to show you which I don't think I've shown people before. And the question is related to Jubilee. But before I head up 5 flights of stairs, look at that. Look at that. It's funny, 2 people, we get through a lot of food, but also what we grow, I mean, we give most of it away because we always grow too much. You don't need that much land to grow really fantastic vegetables. If, say you've only got a balcony to live on, really, I think with 4 window boxes, you could grow enough stuff to give you a good few months worth of really lovely food. So this, the vine for this, I mean, it grew out of a small kind of space of about 4 foot, but the vine travelled everywhere, kind of shooting these off. And I will be honest, these are the first butternut squash we've ever grown. They're not very tasty, so we're letting them sit for a couple of months. Beetroot, not everyone loves beetroot, but juicers, people that like to juice, grow your own, really. I reckon you could do it in a window box if you had to, or find a sandpit size piece of ground in the garden and just give it a go. It's probably one of the most sane building things of being in lockdown, is this time to look after your own kind of veg growing. So anyway, I'm going to go up quite a few flights of stairs now to answer Peter Jones' question, which is about Jubilee. And he says he loves the film, but was it all a matter of we were allowed to do whatever we wanted to do on camera? Well, I think where Derek Jarman was very, very clever, Peter, is he gave the impression that we were in control. Now, the thing is, before every shot, Jarman would spend the whole night prepping the scenery with John Makepery, the filmmaker. And this really impressed me. It was as if the image of the scenery and where they were going to place the actors went far beyond what the actors did. And I think this was quite groundbreaking. I think Peter Greenaway was very similar. And in a way, Stanley Kubrick was definitely the same. And it was this thing that you were painting a picture. So within this picture, the actors might have looked as though we were up to anything we wanted to be up to. But Derek Jarman, I think, was very clever in that he allowed us to believe we had autonomy within the scene. And remember, there's quite a few scenes in Jubilee where the girl gang are all together. Those are complex scenes to shoot. So I think when we did that, my memory serves me well, that he did place us strategically within those scenes. The scenes with Jane County when we had to murder his character, and the scenes where we just bumped off Jean October, those had to be very strategically placed. And in a way, I can remember it was a breath of fresh air because we were quite exhausted. This film had a lot of running around in it. So to be placed and to just stay in that place, doing the wide shot, which you always shot the master establishing shot first, and then you went in for the close-ups and the mid-range shots. It was rather a relief to just be sitting down for a while. But I think that Derek, to a certain extent, used our creativity and the free flow of our creativity to set the scene up in rehearsal, and then he patched it, he repaired it by then saying, I like this, but you're going to stay there for that sequence and you're going to stay over there for the responses. So I think it's very clever if he made it look completely improvised, because I don't think it was. And I think as we went on shooting and we had the luxury of a 3-month shoot, we got more and more aware of the technique that was expected of us. It was a huge learning curve for all of us. And I just think we all grew as a team. We just grew, and we all were kind of mastering what Derek wanted. And I think Derek was very clever like that, very clever. He not only trusted his performers, but he took them on a journey where every performer could grow within their job. And that's how I remember The Tempest as well. But anyway, I promised to show you something. My costume for Jubilee is by the designer Paul Howie. So you've given me a wonderful excuse to get this out. So this is Mad's costume. And it is literally just a plastic suit. I remember it was very, very hot to wear. And it's surprisingly in pristine condition. I only really wore it for Jubilee because obviously it was not very flattering. And I wore it to do the Man-Eaters song with the band that Adam Ant put together for Jubilee. The song was 9 to 5. Ah, look, I'm looking for paint. That is the only mark I can find on this costume, because we literally went on set at 9 in the morning and the paint was still drying, and you had John Makepery and Kenny from Susie and the Banshees. They were all just kind of dabbing up the scenery and repairing it. So this is another Paul Howie. I got very into clown suits, and I would have worn this in the 80s for photo shoots. But I just adored what Paul Howie did. He also created the bright silver metallic bomber jackets that came in around 1978, perhaps a bit earlier, could have been 77. And he was the first person to do that. His shop was on Longacre in Covent Garden. I adored his shop, and it's the first time I ever found iridescent makeup. So the makeup on the cover to Blue Meaning I got from Paul Howie's shop, and it just turned my face bright blue. I adored it. And I believe this, if this isn't a Paul Howie, it's a Naff Naff. And a Naff Naff was on the King's Road. And again, it's just such a beautiful, beautiful thing to wear. It's, you know how people like to lounge in pajamas? I like to lounge in clown suits. They are wonderful. They kind of bring something out of you personality-wise. And another thing you're viewing now is about 50 pairs of flat shoes. I stopped wearing heels 10 years ago when I had my leg correction, and now I'm wearing heels again. So they are redundant flat shoes. Yippee! Vic, you have sent in a fantastic question, and thank you so much. You say that I've obviously talked about musical inspiration, but is there anyone in my life that's been a role model? Someone who I feel has been responsible for key choices that I've made or key beliefs that I hold. So I'd say, Vic, all along my life, and I've lived 6 decades, every decade there has been a different social group of people who have been the role models. I'd say when I was from born till I was 10, obviously everything was in the lap of the gods of my parents. But there were wonderful people who saw my creativity even when I was just 9, 10 years old. And I started ice skating when I was about 7, and I had disability. I had leg correction 10 years ago, so my disability at that young age was quite pronounced. And I was taken on by Vi Thomas, who was training John Curry to be an Olympian. And I studied ice skating with Vi Thomas, with John Curry literally next to me at the Solihull Ice Ring. And she thought that I could make it as an ice skater and that I would enter into the Birmingham Junior Champions and we'd take it from there. So what happened with that, I had 3 very glorious years of intense training, going in the morning from 6 till 8, then go to school, then back to Solihull Ice Ring again from about 4:30 to 6, just studying simple figure of 8 movements, which is all about balance. And it did me the world of good because I was living with my right leg being almost 2 inches longer than my left leg. I loved it. But then come the age of 11, I started to have correctional surgery on my feet and I could no longer wear the boots. So Vi Thomas, definitely a role model in my life. Then at the age of 13, I was allowed to have opera singing lessons with a Mrs. Cullum. I don't think I ever learnt her first name. And she was glorious. And again, she saw through my physical body and saw that I was instinctive, able to learn, could pick up music, could pick up French, Italian, German, and sing. I could sing Tosca, I could sing the Dich Lieb. So she completely championed me, as did my art teacher, Karen Howell, in school, who saw beyond the rebel and saw this incredibly creative life force. So those decades, I was protected by those people. Entering into my late teens, I was definitely protected and guided by Derek Jarman, and that was a massive education because I'd been brought up so formally within school and within my family. Suddenly I was with Derek Jarman and it was a whole new world, and that was fabulous. But I have never really worked with people who believe beyond the physical flesh. And I've worked with so many people who have inspired me and befriended me and guided me, who are complete atheists and don't believe in the other side. Now, I grew up experiencing the other side very, very young, as did the whole of my family, and they tried to deny what they were seeing happening. So it wasn't until I was about 28 that a very brilliant healer psychic called Phyllis Larson reached out through Sting to meet me. And she was the first person I met who'd had the same experiences as me. And that just made me stand my ground and talk about the fact that I believe in the other side. So that cut me through my 20s, through my 30s. My 30s was pretty bleak. And I mean by bleak, you know, I didn't know we could fight aging with Botox and with kind of going on non-carbohydrate diets. You know, I just thought it was the end. My body fell to pot, and at the end of my 30s I suddenly lost weight, discovered Botox, and thought, yeah, I can fight the aging process. But going back to the 30s, it was a reinvention of me. I did lots of TV presenting, and the person that really guided me through that decade was an Uber agent called John Roseman. And John Roseman had no fear, and he has the most wonderful background. He directed the videos for Sweet Dreams, for Bohemian Rhapsody. He did an awful lot of the Eurythmics videos. He did a documentary on the Rolling Stones. He was just fabulous, and he was my agent, and he protected me like no other at a time where I really needed a protector. So he got me through my 30s. Then my 40s, I very much came into my own again. I found my physical body. I reclaimed my body. I started to do more music. It was a great decade. 50s was a great decade. And I'm now in my 60s, and I feel that I can guide myself. But I would say after 34 years of marriage to Robert Fripp, the one continuation of guidance I've had has been my husband, Robert Fripp. And another thing about Robert is he is deeply spiritual, has the same experiences I have, and therefore we don't feel we need to subdue or cover up or deny ourselves how we experience this world through this body when it goes beyond what most people choose to think about. So I would say Robert has been the biggest blessing in my life. You'd be surprised to hear me say that, because I'm quite critical with him, because he's very, very intelligent. So therefore, sometimes our life can be like a continuing game of chess. But he has definitely saved my life on many, many levels. And I can talk to him about anything. So that was, yeah, I think I answered your question, Vic. Thank you, thank you. Now, this next question is from David Powell, and I cannot actually remember this performance you're talking about. And I'm wondering if it happened somewhere like Music Box or one of those, but you are quite insistence on the name of the program. And David, you say, I remember watching one of your performances, a TV recorded in Germany. I loved working in Germany, called Beat Club. You put on the most amazing, energetic performance, as you always do, but the audience just stood there like zombies, probably because they didn't know who the hell I was. How do you keep up the energy when the audience isn't giving back to you? Well, I kind of work in reverse. You know how artists have to sometimes paint the negative when they're marking up their canvas, and they have to, rather than paint the actual, you know, silver coiling, they have to go for the negative. Something I can't do. I only see light. I can't see the negative when I'm painting. So they'd have to turn that into a kind of block of black and white. Well, when I'm stuck with an audience that is literally doing the negative, let's say they're monochrome, they're not giving off any physical energy, they're not giving off any mental energy, I go into overdrive and I just become quite manic. And in a way, I wish I didn't, because the thing is, on camera, non-energy works really well. There's some actors, I can give you, Ewan McGregor, forgive me, has taken his performances right down from what they were at the end of the 80s. In Pennies from Heaven, I believe he was in. So a camera can pick up the slightest thought, the slightest movement, and almost the slightest intention. So I'm always having to work to control my energy when I'm on camera. But with music, I have to work to control my energy even more, because music gives me energy. And then when I'm with an audience that doesn't give me energy back, my energy intensifies to kind of zap up the room. And the opposite of that is when a gig is going really, really well. For instance, the O2 Islington, which we've been playing a lot of my shows there on these at-home broadcasts. When the audience is really ripped and they're going and they're dancing to Raceway Space, they're dancing to Neon Womb, they're dancing to Danced, I can actually take my energy right down, because it's a balance. It's a plus and a minus. So sometimes my energy is huge because I'm not feeling any energy back from the room or the audience. So I start to fill that space. And it's been a massive learning curve for me to trust that I do not have to be manic and all over the place. Trust the camera, trust the content, trust the words, trust the voice. And being over-energized is something I always am. So it's a very revealing question, that, David, about this performance in Germany. I was probably so manic and so in my own space that the audience almost didn't matter. And that can happen sometimes, very, very rarely, because I always perform in places where I'm super well known. But if I have to go into an environment like the W Festival in Belgium last year, a lot of people were seeing me there for the first time, and they were loving the show, and it was one of the best shows that the Toyah band and myself have ever given. It was magnificent. But they were standing there going, this is really amazing. This is magnificent. And sometimes you have to trust that a person's stillness is because they're actually seeing the right thing and they're absorbing and responding the right way. And that is listening and seeing, rather than investing themselves into the energy in the room. So it's all a huge learning curve of trust with performance. And I'd say, if anything, this performance at V Club in Germany, I was very, very young. I was out of control. And I think now that I can sense things and be more in control. So if that ever happened again and I get to Germany to perform, I would probably be more of a diva this time. Huh. So we've come to the last question. And I've got the giggles, because this is from Sean Cronin, the director of Give Them Wings. Hello, Sean. And he says, what has been your most challenging role as an actor? Sean, over to you. Oh, there's been many challenging roles, and I'll let you in on why I'm laughing so much, because exactly a year ago, we were shooting Give Them Wings in Darlington in very, very cold venues. And most of the time I was a stroke victim in a silk negligee. I was so cold. And I remember this one sequence where I set the house on fire, and I'm kind of at this fireplace lighting matches in a silk negligee, nothing else on. And I would say the temperature in that house was probably about 3 degrees. And I was just trying not to shake for all the wrong reasons. And we did that about 15 times. So when you ask, Sean, what has been my most challenging role, I think you have to look at what the challenges are. And temperature is always a challenge. Hunger can be a challenge. We didn't suffer any hunger on your film because a very wonderful local lady brought warm food in every lunchtime and breakfast. But sometimes you work with directors who never eat. And I'm trying to remember, when I did BBC Holiday, the directors never ate. I mean, I was permanently starving, and trying to think when you're starving isn't easy, and you're in another country and you're thinking, I just want a slice of bread. That can be challenging. I think sometimes when you have scenes in films, in drama films, which have more than one actor, or more than, say, 3 actors, that can be challenging because you are fitting your timing around their performances. and you do not want to do anything that throws their performances or your timing. And that's when my heart's going like that. In The Corner's Green with Catherine Hepburn, with George Cukor directing, I remember a sequence around the kitchen table with Catherine Hepburn, myself, Patricia Hayes, and a wonderful male actor, and I had to eat jam and bread throughout the whole scene. And I had to time a line right after my mother, Patricia Hayes, one of the greatest comedic actresses of all time. I had to time this line so that we hit the punchline, we hit the laugh. So there I am, take 3, third chunk of butter and jam, and I'm eating. And I go to say the line and I choked. Oh, and it's things like that, they can happen. And most times when you do a scene like that, you take a bite, spit it out, take a bite, spit it out, because otherwise, when it comes to your close-up, you're too full to eat. But I'm talking about 1978 when we made this. So we were all giving 100% whether we were on camera or not. You never stood down and let us stand in and come and do your shots. So I just remember, just trying to get the timing right, not only for when I get my close-up, but so the other actors, you're being respectful to them, you're giving them what they need to feed off, excuse the pun, and then you get your close-up. And a lot of the times, as a non-star actor on a movie, you get your close-up last, so you have to save that energy. Now, there's another film I'm trying to think about. When I did the film Extremis, which is now called Point of Death, I think it's on Amazon, with wonderful director Steve Stone, we shot this one scene where I'm a body on a bed in a hospital with no legs, and it's kind of the big horror scene in this film. We shot that in the whole day. I was doing that one scene, and I had 2 steady cams on me and about 8 other cameras. And I had to hit my marks every take. So what I mean by that is every word I had to say when the camera was in place. Every word and every move I had to do to hit the lights. This was choreography, and that's demanding. And I absolutely loved it. So we did the master shot with David O'Hara walking into this hospital room and discovering me. And then we did his close-ups, and then they came to my close-ups. Well, by this time, we'd done about 15 takes and had lunch. And I find as an actress, the more confident I get in a scene, I can get bigger. So I'm always having to suppress it, always having to bring it down, and trusting that the director will tell me if I need to bring it down. So that was quite challenging as well. But Sean, I've not forgotten your question. You asking what is the most challenging role I've had as an actor. I'd say on stage at Nottingham Playhouse, about 89, I played Thérèse Racan in Émile Zola's book. And in that play, it was glorious. It's co-directed by Jonathan Church, the Jonathan Church, and Pippa Markham. The set was a room with the walls like that. And as my character, Thérèse Racan, starts to go mad, the walls would slowly open and water would pour down the walls. This was a challenge every night. And Pippa had a way of us rehearsing that she would only allow us to improvise scenes till literally the last week of rehearsals. And I had that much, that thicker script to learn. And I can remember with my lead man, we got to the tech and we were still learning the last scene, which is when we're completely mad and wanting to kill each other. And on the opening night, we were actually doing that last scene by looking at each other, giving each other clues as to what our next line was. And that was a toughie and a learning curve. So I now go into everything, film, theatre, voiceover, everything, knowing the lines beforehand rather than trusting I can learn them in the rehearsal process, because some directors do prefer you to go into a play via improvisation. But we, the actors, have to know every line of a very famous play the moment we hit that first performance. So I've learned that lesson. You don't always get the time to learn within the rehearsal process. But just finishing on Therese Racan, it opened beautifully, and I volunteered to do this to Pippa Markham. They opened the auditorium doors at 7. The show was at 7:30, and there was a pinnacle that went out over the first 3 rows. It just hung like a cliff from the stage over the audience. So you got the feeling that the actors were going to jump off a cliff any time. Well, I offered to sit on a chair as Therese Racan, on that chair from the moment those doors opened, right on the pinnacle, until my first line, which was 40 minutes later. So I didn't get to speak till 10 minutes into the performance. And I managed to do it so well. I kept so still. I slowed my breathing. I didn't move. I didn't scratch. I didn't twitch. And when I said my first line on every show, the audience screamed because they thought I was a prop. I loved it. I loved it. So Sean Cronin, thank you very much for that question. I know you expected me to say that I found learning the Yorkshire accent difficult. I treat every performance I do as if it's the first performance I've ever given. I always give 100% and I want perfection. So it was a joy working on Give Them Wings, and I think a very beautiful film has emerged from it, and I can't wait for that film to come out. And I know that a lot of Yorkshire actors have seen the film and agreed that my accent is okay. It's like a private conversation between me and Sean. And my wonderful leading man, Bill Fellows, he guided me all the time. If I went into any other accent other than Yorkshire, he guided me as well as everybody else. And that was the joy of filming at Darlington. So everyone, thank you so much for your questions this week. I pulled this out of the library, well, a few, my first ever experience of music. These are my first singles I ever owned. And I love them. And I realised the reason I love them is because I just love the artwork and the colours. Oh, I love this dear little duckling. Yeah, this is amazing. And my parents even bought me that. This is going to go on. This is going to go on. Can. Goldilocks. I mean, I don't know if any of these are PC anymore. Happy Birthday to You. I can remember putting that on the record player. What's this one? Our Best Loved Hymns. Oh, Old King Cole. These, I just dropped them. Look, I even got real train sounds. And this one, Toyland. So I just thought, when you asked me a question earlier, what were my influences? There's the beginning. Thank you, everyone, for your wonderful questions, and please keep them coming in. This week has felt very special. There's an optimism in the air. What with the vaccine and with America sorting itself out to some degree, I can just feel that creativity building as if next year is just going to be breathtaking. You might be wondering if I've looked a bit funny this week. I woke up with a black eye on Saturday, and the doctor very kindly saw me, and I've developed shingles in my eyes. So I'm on the way to being over it, but I'm still a bit like, argh. This is the 3rd time I've had shingles in 10 years, and that's the joy of getting older. So anyway, I just want to say to you all, stay healthy. Unlike me, I just got stressed. Stress brings shingles on. I've got too much to do, but I wish you health, happiness, your dreams come true, because it's important that we have dreams. Dreams are what we are made of. And thank you so much for your support. Keep those questions coming in. You've got Toyah and Robert's Agony Aunts tonight, and you've got Toyah and Robert's Sunday lunch tomorrow. Deja vu, my baby, deja vu.
Sweetie, have we been here before? I'm getting lunch from my wife.
Thank you so much. I really appreciated it. I've just come clean about my black eye on Saturday, and
Dear
but
little
I'm
lover.
getting over it. We've both been there before. It's one of the things about growing older, isn't it?
You're growing younger, dear.
Yeah, well, we're growing younger. So we're going to go out today on a song that I co-wrote with Tim Elsenberg, who we both adore.
Yeah.
Wonderful songwriter. And this is the wonderful Toyah Band at the O2 Islington, performing a song that was very much inspired by my husband. And it's called Little Tears of Love. And it's naughty. I hope Robert Plant enjoys it if he sees it. If you missed the beginning of this broadcast, it's because Robert Plant saw our film Whole Lot of Love last week, and we were just like, oh my God, we've been so naughty. But anyway, stay safe, everybody. This is Little Tears of Love. Bye for now. Little Tears of Love. Nothing freaks like a little death. Taste the salt upon my breasts. Little tears of love and pain tumble down into my lap again. Your love comes and surprises me. It leaves a sweet, sticky memory. And we are flawless with each caress of every detail of all this flesh. This is now. Raise your voice. Be brave, commit. Make your choice. We're all the devil, clothed in flesh. Come on, my baby, let's make some mess. Here and now, access this soul. Heal my heart and make me whole. Out of devotee of your curious. Leave the wood and I'll strip this flesh. Nothing freaks like a little dove. Chase the salt upon my breasts. Little tears of love and pain tumble down into my lap again.